And there we are. Welcome to the pre-show, the 1 minute pre-show, the famous Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast, 1 minute pre-show. As people filter in on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
This is the background that I had for the Young Rock Season 2 table read we just did.
Okay. How'd that go?
Good. We're making our way through the season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when actors aren't there yet, or they haven't casted the part yet, or whatever, a lot of writers will read parts. So a bunch of us had to read parts, and so
I was going to ask: do you ever get to be Young Rock?
There's another writer that is Dwayne when he's not there.
Okay.
Patrick, who's been on the podcast, was Randall Park this episode. He's in the show as well. I mix it up. I'm various characters, some more straight line characters, and some wacky stuff. So.
Wow, I would love to see that.
You never know like how much of a swing you want to take as a writer, because you're just like,
yeah.
I'm not doing the role. That's not my job. But you want to also give it
be flat, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be flat either. You want to. It's a line to walk. You want to be like, all right, I'm not like making a total ass of myself, but I'm also not like totally understated and like acting like I don't give a fuck either. That's the line to walk.
That's interesting. I'd love to watch that. Hey, let's go. Let's do the podcast. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook, use promo code RTS, and is brought to you by Body Bio. Supplements for a healthier life. Get 20% off your first order at bodybio.com with code RTRS20. SeatGeek, get $20 off your first order with promo code RTRS. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Get it at statesidevodka.com. On the show today, Nerlens Noel is suing Rich Paul, which is not a Sixers story, but man, it is definitely a Sixers story. More Ben Simmons gym videos. The Sixers re-signed the great Haywood Highsmith to an Exhibit 10 deal. Dame Lillard maybe doesn't even want to be in Philly. And what the hell is it actually like to win a championship? Frank Madden of Locked On Bucks and Brew Hoop will join us to tell us. I mentioned Stateside Urban Craft Vodka. I'm drinking my Black Label bourbon out of one of these Stateside Rocks glasses. When you make your first order from Stateside, you get one of these for free. You also get the vodka sodas as well. The vodka is the highest quality and from Philadelphia, and it is kosher, and there is no gluten whatsoever. StatesideVodka.com. That is StatesideVodka.com. What were you going to say? That sounded like you were going to say something. StatesideVodka.com. And to sign up for the newsletter, rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter.
That was normal breathing, but I do like Stateside Vodka.
It's the best. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy that always plays his table read energy just right. That is Mike Levin.
Hello. Young Rock Season 2. Get excited. Actually, Doogie Howser, or Doogie Kamealoha Season 1 coming out a couple weeks, I think.
You got a lot of shit going on, man.
A lot of shit going on. A couple weeks on Disney Plus. Family show, lovely show, Hawaii, beautiful.
I am, of course, old enough to remember the original boot of Doogie Howser.
We watched a bunch of those.
That show was enormous. What I remember the best, just that would date it the most, is his journal or whatever that was in the opening credits. That was probably on an Apple IIe or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of jokes about that journal for sure.
Yeah. And you know, we just played Amos Lee. Amos and Jaronalewski does his musical director, but does our intro song. Amos on the road with Mutlu. And Amos's new song is really great. So Amos and Mutlu are touring in September. Obviously, we are big fans of them both. So go to SeatGeek and get tickets, obviously. But they're on tour. It's good to see them doing their thing again. Speaking of doing their thing, you know, Sixers, I feel like obviously the last 8 years have been a lot. There have been a lot of great stories. But I love when something like this, the Nerlens and Rich Paul story, just ends up weaved in to the nonsense. It's like it's an off-season side story. It doesn't actually involve any current Sixers, but it is still obviously connected to what we do.
No, it's very nice. It's very similar to it. It feels like it's, you know, like you have this big hit show that has all these huge storylines, and then like you got a couple things for the DVD extras. Like this is definitely like a DVD extra storyline that would never make it onto the real show. It's not that important. But you want to, for the real heads out there, you want a little webisode about hey, why didn't they ever re-sign Nerlens? Oh, it's because his agent didn't answer the phone. Okay, cool, great.
By the way, the most powerful agent in probably in the NBA. So courtesy of Sports Agent Blog.
My favorite blog. Yeah. And then people say blogs are dead, but I love Sports Agent Blog. It gives me all the business hits I need. Check it every day. Reputable stuff. Heard of it before for sure. All the stuff. I trust it with my life. Keep going. Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Where is it? I got it. Okay. So courtesy of Sports Agent Blog, Paul, who represents the likes of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Draymond Green, and Ben Simmons, is alleged to have interfered with Noel's pre-existing relationship with Happy Walters, who had represented Noel after he was drafted into the NBA from the University of Kentucky in 2013. The complaint says that Paul, knowing that Noel was represented by Walters in 2017, told Noel that he was, quote, $100 million man, and that Paul could get Noel a max deal if he terminated his relationship with Walters. The funny thing, we all remember this, right? Like we remember them offering him $70 million or whatever it is.
That was Dallas, right?
Yes, it was Dallas. So this all allegedly went down at Simmons' birthday party in Los Angeles, where Paul was sitting next to Noel during the dinner portion of the event. Following the party, Noel parted ways with Walters and signed a standard player agent contract with Paul. Noel also purportedly took Paul's advice and ended prior ongoing negotiations with the Dallas Mavericks that would have paid him $70 million over 4 years in favor of acquiring a single-year $4.1 million qualifying offer with the intention of later seeking a max deal on the free agent market. Paul earned a 4% commission on the qualifying offer. During the free agent season, and this is quote, which began on July 1st, 2018, and after Noel's one-year contract with Dallas expired, neither Paul nor anyone at Klutch Sports presented any real proposals to Noel in terms of strategies or ideas on how Noel might secure a long-term contract or even a significant contract for the following season, states the complaint. Indeed, as the 2018 free agent season began, no real offers or deals were presented to Noel on the first day of free agency. Noel says that Paul had nothing to do with Noel then signing with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that instead, Russell Westbrook and Paul George recruited him to join them for the franchise, obviously the third in the big three. Noel signed a 2-year, $3.75 million league minimum deal with the team. Now, here is the amazing Sixers connection, which could have changed the course of history. Noel allegedly learned from Brett Brown, who was coaching the Philadelphia 76ers at the time, that the 76ers front office had been trying to contact Paul to discuss a potential deal and that Paul refused to respond. This was purportedly the case with the other team representatives who were reaching out as well. Eventually, Noel says that he contemplated terminating his representation relationship with Klutch. However, he was persuaded by Lucas Newton of the company that they were working on a 3-year deal with the Thunder that would compensate Noel to the tune of $7 to $10 million annually. Thus, Noel decided to stay in place. Then free agency hit. The first day was quiet. Noel said he later learned that representatives from the Houston Rockets and Los Angeles Clippers wanted to discuss opportunities with Paul, but they could not make contact.
So I think that, first of all, it's important to know that Brett was not only the coach at this time, Brett was also sort of the interim GM.
It was him and then minority owner
David Heller. Yeah, I mean, it sucks for him. It's a happier ending because he did get paid this offseason, so good for Nerlens. It would have been more of a bummer if it was not the case. Yeah, I mean, it's there's obviously other storylines in this for him as a guy, and his career, but like, man, if Nerlens was backing up Joel during the Toronto series. When they were like, what was it? Plus 90, minus 105 without him?
You mean instead of Greg Monroe?
Instead of Greg Monroe, instead of Amir Johnson, instead of Boban. None of those guys seem like bad guys, but I much rather would have had Nerlens. And it's funny because they had to wait until after Colangelo was gone because Brian did not like Nerlens. It seemed very clear that there was animosity there, or he just wanted to be like, that's Sam's guy, like I'm getting out of here. And so as soon as Brian got caught doing what he did,
which was what for the uninitiated,
who can remember at this point? It's 17 storylines ago, but they had to wait until he was gone before they extended the offer to Nerlens for him to come back. And then we talked about it. We definitely talked about it at that time of like, he should come back. It'd be perfect. Him backing up Joel would be so nice, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, would have been great. Would have changed the course of history. Rich Paul not answering his phone.
What the fuck is Rich Paul doing?
Pretty good.
Like, I wonder how much of this is true, and I wonder how much of it is real. Like, I wonder if it's one of those things where they signed Noel, they thought it was going to be a big deal, and ended up not being a big deal, so he just like didn't pay attention. It's a hard job to have a lot of different clients and work them all, like a lot,
those guys are not the day-to-day on those agents, on those players rather. Like you have a big agent and then you're like lower level agent that does the actual like meat of the work. And then the bigger agent comes in to be like, all right, now there's some heft behind it.
Well, not if we're talking about a max deal. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the heft.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think there's, at least in the entertainment side of things, there's the smaller calls that happen on the day to day. And then there's the like, hey man, like deliver now. There's certainly been times when I've been pissed off at my agent. So like sometimes they get a call, sometimes they don't answer, whatever, fuck it.
Your agent tells Mike, no, that's for the other guy to handle.
That's somebody else does it.
Yeah.
But that is usually like, when I was at an agency, we have since fired that agency, but like you have the upper level person and then the like more junior, younger and hungry type of things. But in Rich Paul's defense, like if I'm getting a call from a Sixers front office, who the fuck is in charge? I don't know. At that time, could have been anybody. Could have been a prank call.
Well,
I would not have known. I would not have
Clippers
known to not think it was a prank call.
The Clippers and the Rockets apparently too could not get a hold of Rich Paul.
Oh, really? That as well?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's weird. I feel for Nerlens, and I would definitely want some compensation for that. That is, his agent is like unlike business manager, which is a little more nebulous. Like agent is like a very like legal position. Mm-hmm. And there are things that they like have to do. And if they don't do them in a certain way, then there is consequences. So good for Nerlens. I hope he gets his money. I mean, Rich Paul's got enough money. He could at least give him some.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't think Nerlens is going to win, but I'm glad he's suing him.
You don't think he's going to win?
No.
I hope he does.
You can't sue somebody for being a bad agent.
You can sue someone
like qualified immunity. It's
failing. At least you can sue them for like, maybe there's a settling situation where you go like, hey man, you got me a shitty deal. You never delivered on this other thing. Rather than go through all this litigation, just give me my like commission back or something.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I think he should get something. And I would,
But
if I'm
he
Rich
should.
Paul, I would just want this like settled and taken care of and not out in the public eye for a while of him getting a bad reputation that he like treats his clients poorly. I think they come to an agreement out of court and they can move on, because Nerlens deserves something. To not, if it's real that those people say like, yeah, I called, he didn't answer, and then he had to take this $4 million whatever, then qualifying offer, then like he absolutely should get something. Absolutely should.
Yeah, I don't think he will, but we'll see. I don't think these other teams are going to testify that fucking Rich Paul didn't return their call, because they're all terrified of him anyway. We love emails about our sponsors. This one came from Justin. Now, Justin was we talked to Justin a while ago. He is in the military. His house burned down, if you remember. And the Sixers took care of him once, gave him a nice night out. Justin sent us a note about Body Bio. Wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Body Bio. My girlfriend has been struggling with anxiety for a while. It was getting worse the last few months, along with some depressive outbreaks. She was trying to look for ways to control her anxious outbreaks and be more positive. So I went and picked up some Calm from Body Bio's website. She decided to give it a try since it's natural, and she loved the, quote, take the edge off benefit it gave her. She now uses the Calm, the Elite, and the liposomal vitamin C. I've been taking Calm as well, and I find it great. I took heavy antidepressants for years, perks of the war, and now I know what shitty medication feels like. Calm is the opposite of that. So thank you, Justin. Great to hear from you. Body Bio, he mentioned liposomal vitamin C. Very quickly, you take a vitamin C supplement. It's water soluble. You piss most of it out. It's not good. You see on the back how much vitamin C is in it. Your body's not actually getting that vitamin C in it. So Body Bio made liposomal vitamin C, which actually like bonds to your cells and goes right into your cells and is not water soluble. So you're getting all the vitamin C. It's very important for your immune system with vitamin C. Very important for like your regular health. We love Body Bio. They're family owned, family operated. They support our podcast, our local company, and great shit, man. RTRS20 is the code for 20% off anything at bodybio.com. That is RTRS20 for 20% off anything at bodybio.com. Bodybio.com. All right. I wrote this wrong in my notes. My notes say, I guess this proves who is in whose head. Sixers signed JJ Redick to an Exhibit 10 deal. That's not actually what happened. Sixers signed, I always say his name fake, Haywood Highsmith to an Exhibit 10 deal. I like his name. I liked him when he played. I'm glad that Haywood Highsmith is still in the system.
Totally fine. A total Mike O'Connor guy in the sense that low value 3-and-D guys or low cost 3-and-D guys. Why not see if he can become a Royce O'Neal type? He's pretty big. He shoots hot. He's been on the pod before from the Blue Coats game.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And good for him. And honestly, JJ is currently unsigned, so maybe they should offer him an Exhibit 10 deal.
By the way, a lot of emails about the tickets. Obviously, we have 20 tickets to JJ Redick's Old Man and the Three live pod in Brooklyn on September 22nd. It's sold out. We have 20 tickets. A lot of emails and direct messages interested in the tickets, but no one making any offers. No one saying what should happen. Some people offered to donate to charity, yada, 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 why they should be the one. We're still looking for how we're going to give away these tickets. But obviously, there are plenty of people that would like to go. Would love to sign JJ to an Exhibit 10 deal. So there was a Dame Lillard sort of like two small updates this week. One came from Sam Amick, who was on Howard Beck's Crossover podcast. I really think we missed the mark not naming our podcast after something very basic basketball like Crossover, like the triple double or the out of bounds or
dribble time.
Yeah.
Pass and cut and defend.
The dribble time. Welcome to the dribble time pod. Says Sam Amick, bottom line, I don't think Dame looks out there and sees a place that he wants more than he currently has in Portland that is feasible because he knows how this league works. He knows he's not totally in control here. He's under contract for several more years. I don't know where Ben goes. The question was who's going to get traded at first. It was like Ben, Dame, or Beal. I don't know where Ben goes. I think Daryl Morey would love nothing more than, Ben going to Portland and Damian Lillard coming back his way. I think if Damian wanted that, it would have happened already.
I think that's a fair point.
It is. I mentioned a couple of times that I thought there was this possibility that neither Dame Lillard nor Bradley Beal really honestly wanted to go anywhere else. I do think it's possible. I don't know if you saw the quote from Lillard, who said they asked him if he was going to be in Portland, and he's like, I'm going to be in Portland for now, or something like that. I do think it's possible this is a Harden-like situation where he plays the first 6 games of the year with Portland. It's obvious that they're not a title contender, and the demand comes right away. I almost think it's possible he doesn't want to feel like he got bullied into doing this, because it started leaking out. I think it was Henry Abbott that said that he was definitely going to demand a trade. I think there's possible that he doesn't want to make it sound like anybody knew anything, and maybe he wants to try it. But I think this could be a second week of the year trade demand. Yeah,
maybe. There was Chris Haynes stuff around then also. I forget who had it first, but there was various whispers and stuff. I think that's a decent point. I think he's going to go. Eventually, he's going to go. It seems like the way people talk about it seems like he would probably prefer to go to the Knicks. And with the idea that, once I'm in New York, then I'll be able to recruit guys there in a way that I haven't been in Portland, which I get. But man, also if I'm Portland, any offer the Knicks send me, it's not enough. They're not enough good players that they would send. And Knicks fans are maybe we send RJ, or maybe he's off limits. And it's just dude, who are you sending? What is it going to be? What is the offer? And they just don't have that much. And so the Sixers trade offer is way better.
But you say that. I don't agree. Only because I think the only main difference, because basically we're just talking about draft picks. The only main difference is RJ Barrett or Ben Simmons. And
yeah, it's not close. Ben Simmons is a much better player.
He's a much better player, but he's also making $30 million.
That's fair.
And he's just coming off of and he's a focal point in a maybe he won't be in a bad way at some point, but he's a focal point in a bad way right now. And I could make the argument that if I'm rebuilding, I would rather have RJ Barrett on a rookie contract than Ben Simmons on the second year of a max extension or whatever. I don't know. I think that if that's the main difference, we already saw that story, right? We saw that story with Houston, and Houston decided I think
that's what this. Yeah, I don't disagree with you that they might want to rebuild. I think that's what Portland ultimately decided to do, just a full rebuild. But I think the benefit of the Sixers deal is that you can both get Ben and you can rehabilitate his image and make him and have him surrounded an actual stretch five and more ball handlers, whatever the fuck you want to put around him. And also get a maxi, a number of picks, whoever else you like in the thing. In the Sixers package, the way that you kind of can in the Knicks package. Also, the Knicks contractually, since they just re-signed a bunch of their guys,
it will be more challenging.
They have to wait essentially to for that deal to happen until I think December, because you can't, once you re-sign a player, you can't trade him for X amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Maxey is more valuable than Quickley?
I do. Yeah. I think Quickley's a really good player. I liked him coming out of college. I think he's just a really excellent shooter. I think Maxey has significantly more upside in a level of starting point guard on a really good team upside. Whereas Quickley, I think is just I think he could be a starting player. I think he's long, he defends, or will defend, I think, when he gets older. He's a good shooter, has a little touch on that floater, but he's not as dynamic of a player, I don't find, as Maxey, and hasn't shown how Maxey's growth from beginning year to end of the year into summer league was, I think, sizable. in a way that quickly is just like, he's an NBA player for sure. But I think you can see Maxey blossoming more, which is what you'd want as a if you do decide to rebuild.
Yeah, I think the more of a challenge with New York, aside from having to wait, is like that there isn't a obvious path to a second star, and
Totally.
The Philly thing is too. The Philly thing,
Which,
obviously, Embiid is there, which is a big deal. But I do think, I spent a day at WIP today, and I was talking to the midday show about it, and they asked, well, isn't Philadelphia a great situation for Lillard? And I said, if he hated his situation in Portland, it is an attractive situation. But I don't know that it is a situation that you look at it and you go, that's perfect, I got to get there. So I think it's better than the Knicks situation, but I also don't think it's a situation that you leave somewhere that you're happy to go, maybe,
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a relatively perfect situation for him. I mean, as far as like on court, I obviously don't know what he wants out of life and location and all that stuff. I think him and Embiid is better than anything he can probably draw to New York in the short term. Like, say he gets there, the Knicks don't have any. If they trade for Dame, then they don't have any. Especially, say they trade for Dame in December.
Mm-hmm.
They trade for Dame in December. They trade everything that they have: RJ, quickly, rookies, picks, whatever. Then they turn around and go like, well, we want to go get somebody with Dame. And it's like, well, what are they trading for that? No one's just going to be like, here you go. Even the Lakers had to give up their whole package for AD, even when they wanted there. There's nobody else to trade. If they say free agency, there's just not that much happening in free agency. Players aren't waiting until free agency to get to where they want to get to. They're doing it. They're using the leverage that they have while they're still under contract. And you look at this year's free agency was pretty a very dud as far as like guys changing teams in free agency, high level guys. And next year it's not that much else. I think it's Levine and Beal, the same guys we're talking about. So unless you think it's Brad Beal, which is like, is Dame, Beal, and Julius Randle a championship contender? Probably not. And there's not many other guys. It has to be Beal there because I think, as we've discussed, Levine is probably going to re-sign in Chicago. So I don't know. I think if I'm Dame, I come here and be like Iverson's successor as a little guy. Him and Embiid, they do such different things. You're going to have a center who can also shoot and also defend, which Portland has not had. You got a fan base who is so excited to have you there. You got defenders and wings that are willing to shoot outside of it. Like, it just seems like the right situation. I don't know if maybe he doesn't like Doc. Like, if he doesn't like Doc, then that's one thing. Like, there's things that we don't know, but I think as far as on-court fit and like cultural fit, like within the city, like it would be perfect. And I think New York, it's like a lot of ifs. Whereas in Philly, it's just like, come be the guy with Joel, win a championship.
Yeah. We got a question. Obviously, we're doing the show live on YouTube and Twitch. This is a YouTube question from Thomas Bryant. Spike, you said this morning that there's a
Thomas Bryant
from the Wizards. You said this morning that there was and I've said this on the pod before. I think I said less than 1% chance. This morning you said there is a 1,000,000% chance that Ben never plays again for the Sixers. Why are you so confident when people with sources like Jake Fisher think it's a toss-up? Well, look, Jake Fisher is leveraged by his sources, and I am not. So, like, Jake Fisher says not that the Jake Fisher's information isn't real, but sometimes Jake Fisher says things to try to sway something because he's getting the information from somebody. I am telling you, Ben Simmons is not going to play for the Sixers again. It's obviously possible that they get to camp or the first game and he hasn't been traded yet, but he's never going to play for the Sixers again. He's not. Get it out of your mind. It's over. It's not happening. So, like I said, 0.00001% chance that he ever plays for the Sixers again.
It just seems like in the benefit for everybody for it to just not happen. Like everybody's ready to move on.
Yeah.
Nobody wants him. Ben doesn't want to be here anymore. Nobody else wants him to be here. I think like the narrative that Joel and Doc both like threw him under the bus. I think that's wrong. I think Doc maybe could have done it. Doc definitely could have done it in a way that is less, especially the like, can he be the point guard on a championship team? I thought that was
just lie.
You can totally just lie, but like Joel being like
he lied all year. Mike,
he lied all year. Nothing changed from like one moment to the next. Like that felt like a real like lift, like dropping the veil kind of moment. He shouldn't have done it. Doc, you could argue like fuck that guy. I get that. Joel, I don't think threw him under the bus.
Nah,
I think he's just like it felt weird when this one thing happened. So.
By the way, it wasn't the first time that Joel has like non-naming singled out Ben in certain things. Like it wasn't the first time that had happened. I think that the thing that was so stunning about Doc Rivers is that he had been on the other side of that conversation all year. And then he did that after the series. So before we get to Frank, do you want to let Frank know to come on? Or no?
I think you should be in any minute.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll talk about draft. So I was looking at futures on DraftKings. I was looking at NBA futures, and these odds have shifted since yesterday. The conference winner to win the Eastern Conference on DraftKings, the Nets are plus 105, not a surprise. The Bucks plus 380, not a lot of respect for the defending champs. Sixers plus 700. And the Heat plus 1,000, Hawks plus 1,600. Yesterday, the Heat were plus 1,300 and the Sixers were plus 700. I was kind of shocked that with all going on around the Sixers, that they still remained in that third spot so clearly above the Hawks, the Heat, and the Celtics.
Yeah, it feels like a hedge against a big trade. Right. I'm surprised that the Heat are so low. When I was in Vegas last weekend for SummerSlam with the Young Rock Reading staff. And I saw that the Heat were, at least at the book I was at, was 35-1, which I was like, that's pretty good.
Oh, for the title.
For the title.
So this is the conference. The title, the Heat are plus 2,800. Okay. So yeah,
it's kind of a bit, but yeah, I'm a little surprised. Maybe Vegas just isn't as high on them. Maybe they think like a little old, probably not going to hold up that long. But there's a lot of good players on that team. Interesting.
Football is right around the corner. Get into the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. With the NFL returning, DraftKings gives customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook, the app, right now. Place a bet of $1 or more on any week, one game, to receive $200 in free bets instantly. And they didn't forget about current customers. We're already talking about new customers, current customers. All customers can participate in DraftKings Week 1 no-brainer for opening night. All customers, that's even Ricky people who have already joined DraftKings, can double their money as long as Tampa Bay doesn't lose by 74 points.
They will.
Wow, what a DraftKings fucking everyone as the Bucks lose by 77 points. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code RTRS to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That is promo code RTRS to get your free $200 in free bets instantly for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or PA only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Frank is there. Audio only, but Frank is... Oh, no, there's Frank Madden. No, fuck, he's got video and everything. Holy shit. Hi, Frank.
Guys, so I'm like prisoner in my own house here. I have a new puppy who's like 8 weeks old, who's taken over the downstairs of my house. I have a 3.5-year-old who's one room over. So if we get too loud, all hell's gonna break loose in my house. Okay. But I'm doing well. It's lovely to see you gentlemen again, and hopefully my audio video situation will hold up here.
Yeah.
Did you get the puppy after the championship?
Is it a championship puppy?
Yes, technically it's a championship puppy. It was my wife's
Oh my
idea, and my
God.
wife is a Houston Rockets fan. She's from Houston, so I don't know. She was celebrating Jalen Green's summer league or something. I don't know. Alperen Sengun, very excited about the Alperen Sengun pick.
And that's the puppy's name, obviously.
Yes, yeah, Alpi, yeah, exactly. So yeah, technically a championship puppy, I guess.
Wow.
But yeah.
And for anyone who just tuned in, obviously you're recording this, you listen to this recorded, you know who this is. But if you're live, Frank of Locked On Bucks and True Hoop, or Brew Hoop, rather.
That's right.
Brew Hoop related to True Hoop, and that it rhymes with it. But that's the only relation. So I'm going to start with a big picture question on the Bucks. First of all, congratulations. I think
Congratulations.
This was the first sports championship in the last 20 years that everyone at the same time went, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Like, no one was mad. No one was talking shit. So congratulations on that. My big question is there that significant a difference between the Bucks of this year compared to the previous 2 years? Or was the situation and I'm not saying that they won because other teams got hurt, but like, is it that significant a difference in this team, or was the path and the situation around them just more favorable?
I mean, I guess the cop-out answer would be both, but I think the two obvious big differences, I mean, obviously Drew Holiday instead of Eric Bledsoe is obviously a huge difference. I think you can still make the case that the 2019 team was top to bottom the most talented overall team that they had. And, the irony was, in the last games of that series against the Raptors, I think they played only like 7 or 8 guys. Cause Mirotic was literally benched. Like the dude did not get off the pine in the last games. But when you factor in Brogdon and Mirotic being there, arguably you could say that was a more talented team than the one they had this year, which was clearly not deep, right? Especially with DiVincenzo out, and really going 7.5 deep. It felt like in most games. I mean, Bobby Portis didn't even play basically in the Nets series. So I think there was, and you guys can probably relate to this, right? Like I look back at the 2019 series against the Raptors, and they lose game 3 in double overtime. Chris Middleton had a shot to win that game. It wasn't like an easy shot, but he misses a shot at the buzzer, I think, of regulation, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was end of first OT. And if they go up 3-0, I mean, who knows, right? Maybe they win a championship that year. You just never know. And I think with this year, I mean, just the roller coaster ride of it all. There was nothing inevitable, obviously, about this championship. There was obviously they got breaks, whether it was injuries, whether it was guys creating their own luck to an extent, making big shots. And my philosophy on the playoffs has always been that it's a series of small sample sizes and stuff can happen. And, a guy has an awesome series in the first round and then he's crap the next 2 rounds. And who knows, maybe that guy is then awesome in the finals if you get that far. It's just hard to really, kind of predict what exactly is going to happen. And I think, I'm sure you guys feel the same way about that 2019 series, because against the Raptors, obviously the Kawhi shot, who knows, right? Sliding doors, 99 times out of 100, that shot doesn't go in the way it does. And then what happens? Sorry to
thanks for the reminder, but
Mike, he'd be like, what might have been, look, but I don't know. I would say, at the end of the day, like, your team wins a championship. It's like, okay, your name's in that book forever and they can't take it away from you. But, so many things have to go right to win any given year. And of course there's some teams like, some of the Durant Warrior teams, like, of course there was just sort of an air of inevitability around those teams. But for the most part, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's just so hard to win a championship. I think probably the previous years probably formed, some of the experience that allowed them to do what they did this year. Like, I think Budenholzer doesn't coach that way 2 years ago, the flexibility that he showed as far as going to switching, some of that stuff. So I think in some ways they probably had to lose those first 2 years in order to kind of get over the hump this year. But again, they could have easily lost against the Nets, of course. But they found a way that series, and they kind of continue to find the way throughout the playoffs. And, I think that's what kind of makes, in a way, it makes this playoffs like more fun in a lot of ways. And it's, I don't want to say that more meaningful, maybe not the right way to frame it. Cause of course everybody wants, the 16-1 playoff run and just dominance. But, and we could talk about it. I mean, just again, the ups and downs that I think Bucks fans felt in a lot of ways made this like more of a payoff sort of when they ultimately did win. And, again, that's just a really cool kind of way, thing that we can look back to, when you from sort of the perspective of Bucks fans, just the fact that like when Giannis goes down in that Hawks series, like, I mean, literally like that felt like a near death experience from a sports perspective. And then, a few weeks later to be, seeing him have an all-time finals and win a championship, it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. So Frank, I've always felt a kinship to you personally, because I think you're a great guy. And I think that you view your fandom in a similar way that I view mine, which is negatively. And we had our summer league experiences and watched some bad basketball and bonded that way. But like, you are now on the other side of it. Like, you are on the side of the people who win. And obviously we have some with the Eagles and Phillies, but like the bulk of my, personality is more defined by the fucking Sixers. And so trying to figure out like the amount of time that you put into the Milwaukee Bucks, some would say a bad decision for a lot of that. To now to like be rewarded with like a championship of a homegrown, very likable superstar who decided to stay. And then you win in ways like you said, like coming back from deficits and adversity and injury and all this other stuff. Like, did it feel like for you as a fan, but like as like a because you're also more involved, like I don't know, special fan? Like, I don't know, what do you call it yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm not a journalist. That's
no, but like somewhere in
true,
between, there's no good term for it, but like an important fan. Do you feel like, did it feel like how you thought it was going to feel?
I would say yes.
Wow.
It did. I think that the weird part about the sort of the evolution of kind of, I think the way a lot of Bucks fans processed it was, with Giannis going down, it was like, well, we can still beat the Hawks, but the Suns have been playing very well. Again, should the Suns have even gotten past the first round? Of course, you can argue they were lucky to get past the first round. But they looked really good going into the finals. And I mean, with Giannis and the question mark about, is he going to come back for game 3? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, my view coming into the series is there's no way you could pick the Bucks in an objective, like anybody objectively looking at this series cannot pick the Bucks just given just all those uncertainties. And, so it was just sort of a weird situation because it's like this once in a lifetime, of course, with all the stuff that's happened in both sides of the bracket, but with all these things that have happened, you get this chance. Okay, you take care of the Hawks. Awesome. This tremendous relief. As a fan, it felt awesome that, Drew and Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis, all these guys step up and, like fulfill that part of the script, right? I mean, you of all people appreciate a good script. I think this was a corny script. If you showed me this as a sports story, it'd be like, no, come on. The guy, the superstar is going to look like he's broken his leg. And then, like it almost was like kind of too rich to believe from a storyline perspective.
Like the Eagles Super Bowl, by the way. Like the Eagles Super Bowl was a similar thing. You know what I mean? Like that I think that I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what it reminded me of. Like that you just couldn't write it that way. It wouldn't seem realistic.
Right. It was like when is Mark Wahlberg gonna, pick up a fumble and return or whatever. So yeah, it was so strange because it was weird expectations going into the finals. And then they go down 2-0 and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, like they're on the road. They've been really bad starting all these series. Giannis, game 1, I was like, well, geez, thank God he's just even out there. But then game 2, and he puts together an incredible game 2. I was like, interesting. So he's apparently back. But game 3 and game 4, I think it was really game for when they came back and won, and after trying on that was probably in weird ways, that was maybe like the most tense I was all series, because then it kind of felt like, oh crap, like it's tied now, like this is, just best of 3, and we have the best player in this series, right? Like, and that felt like it was fundamentally different. And so actually after game 4, I bought tickets to game 6, and I said, all right, if they lose game 5, I'm probably not, because I live in Austin, Texas, I said I'm probably not going to fly back if they're down 3-2 and have a chance just to tie. But I said, if they have a chance to win this series, I have to fly back. I just have to. I mean, my dad got us season tickets in 1992 when I was 11. It just was like too much of a full circle type thing. So I'm watching game 5, in my bedroom. My wife has some friends over, including some of my friends who I'm literally ignoring all nights on a Saturday to watch this basketball game. And they know that I'm just being like insufferably weird.
Veteran move for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm watching the game 5, literally just sort of holed up by myself, 1,000 miles away. And, my belief is kind of like building and building. It's like, oh my God, this is happening. And of course it got way more dramatic at the end, but just, after the Giannis block and then after the alley-oop, the steal and the alley-oop, it was just felt like, I mean, this is just, the stars are aligning. It just felt like, oh my God, this is happening. And of course, then the 2 days between, like, since most of the games had 2 days between, those felt like eternities. It was just like, oh my God, let's just play this game. And then game 6, I fly in, I get in because of various reasons. I get in at 3 a.m. into Milwaukee the day of game 6. My dad, he's 81 years old. He's still very, very physically fit, but has had some balance issues. So he was actually uncertain because my seats sucked, right? Like, they're literally the worst seats I've ever had for a Bucks game, and by far the most I've ever paid for Bucks tickets. I'm in the second deck in the end zone, basically last row of the end zone. And he was just like, I don't know if I should go, like, big crowds, whatever. And I'm just like, Dad, like we got to do this, And so he ends up saying, yeah, let's go. So we go, and I mean, the crowds obviously outside the game were enormous. I mean, you guys saw it on TV. And it was just weird. I mean, I kind of had this feeling of like almost dread, like when Brandon Jennings, I see Brandon Jennings there, it was like, oh my God, like this is like the karma is going to be horrendous. Like if they lose this, like it's just like, oh my God,
Yeah. Various old Bucks monsters of the past, like creeping their way through the door and just trying to slam the closet shut on them.
Yeah. And it just felt like, everything in the one way was sort of aligning for this, crowning moment. And Giannis becoming kind of the darling of the playoffs, press conferences, and just obviously his overall play. It was like, okay, this is these are Giannis's playoffs, and they're literally like just right there for them to take. And of course, I've had for long periods for years have had, my pinned tweet has been never trust the Bucks. And so there was always that sense of like, is it going to be torn away? It just felt like it would be too fitting for, based on my experience as a fan, for this to somehow not work out, and for it not to work out in the most painful way possible. And so, being at game 6, I mean, literally I was like going fist to the sky, cheering on Giannis's first free throw of the game. Like, I've never seen a crowd get as quiet and then get as loud for a free throw in the first quarter of a basketball game ever, for various reasons. But it was just like, I don't know, it was just like a collective, just weird emotional sensation to be in that building for game 6. And I think, with under a minute left, when Middleton hits a shot to put them up, I think 6, and then I think Booker missed a shot, then it starts to kind of wash over you of like, this is really happening.
Yeah. The washing over is the very, like, the feelings part that I always like think about. And you can be like, what am I going to think about when I'm thinking about that? Like, how am I going to feel? Like, I'm trying to, very like out of body experience is always.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think with whenever it was, like, I don't think it was when, maybe it started happening when Giannis, like, I think it was with like 8 seconds left, Giannis hits the free throw to get 50, but, it was obvious the Bucks were winning at that point. And, I definitely started to tear up. And there were moments in the days leading up to it where I thought about, like, man, this is really lining up. And like, I literally could feel like emotions swelling inside me. And I'd be like, okay, you can't start weeping about the possibility of your team winning a championship before it happens. Like, that would be the ultimate, false start on this. But yeah, I mean, once those last few seconds tick off, I mean, I was, openly crying in public.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of what I would hope for. And again, I think it really kind of put into focus too, like how we experience all this stuff, and we experience it as part of a group. We experience it, because we watched it with our dads or with our best friends or, moms, sisters, whatever it is. And so I think that was also one of the big things that I took away from, especially kind of part of the aftermath too, because going to like post game parties and seeing people that I've gotten to know only because I, follow the Bucks in the way I do. It became a really cool sort of like, and the real championship was the friends we made along the way. Like there were some moments like that, where it's like, no, actually,
that's when you want it to get corny though. That's the time.
But that's when you want it to get corny. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it kind of like also just a reminder of like, hey, this has been, even though the Bucks have sucked for the vast majority of the time that I followed them, it's given me this opportunity to meet, a lot of people, become friends with people I never would have otherwise. And obviously with especially my dad, like have this kind of thing that we've always bonded over. And so it was just like kind of a really amazing kind of capper to, again, kind of 30 years of futility. And honestly, like, I mean, the first 27 were not that stressful because the Bucks were never good. Other than the series with your guys in 2001, I mean, and I never thought the Bucks were winning a championship that year. I was never like, oh, they're going to beat the Lakers. I don't know. I never thought of it that way. So it's really only these last 3 years when they've been good that it's been really stressful and sort of angsty. So yeah, but it was great. And it was everything that, I would have hoped it to be. And one day, Michael, you will experience the same thing.
I have an important question about a specific group of Bucks fans that I'm going to ask in a moment. I have to talk about one of our sponsors very quickly, a beloved sponsor, SeatGeek. And I was mentioning Amos Lee and Mutlu were on tour earlier, so I'm going to go right to the SeatGeek app on my phone and see how I would purchase tickets. So I go to Amos Lee and the September 4th, Boulder, Colorado, and see I look right here in what section is this? This is B right, row R. It is green, which means it's a good deal, $154 for the pair. That's how it works, right? And here's B right, row O is only an okay deal, so it's yellow, and a 0.2 score red for row Q. That means it's not a great score. That's how SeatGeek works. It takes all of the ticket websites, which are all confusing and basically meant to fuck you, and put you all into one site that is not meant to fuck you, specifically there to tell you what is a good price and what is not a good price. So you only need one ticket app, and that is SeatGeek. That's why it's got over 50,000 5-star reviews, and that's why we support them. It rates the ticket, the prices on a scale of 1 to 10, bad to good, and green to red, good to bad. SeatGeek. And it's got those cool interactive maps so you can look to see where the seats are. Anyway, $20. We're giving you $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase with code RTRS. You can either do it on the website or download the app and use promo code RTRS. It is the only ticket app you need for concerts, for sporting events, for comedy, whatever. SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app. Use promo code RTRS. Okay, Frank, my question is this. The paid fan section, the supporter section at Bucks games, do they get to celebrate as much as you do? Or do they just go home like, job well done, we paid you guys to be super fans for several years? Do they just go home? Or do they feel like the same thing that you're feeling?
I don't know when they got rid of them, but there definitely were not any they've had various names, but yeah, the one-time squad 6 as they have been pushed out out of the picture by the fact that I paid literally the face value of $750 for my tickets. So yeah,
okay.
Post-pandemic, no freebie fans at this game. I know people who I thought might have gotten free tickets because they actually matter way more than I do, and they also paid for tickets. I was like, oh wow, Bucks are just basically saying you got to pay for tickets tonight. So yes,
wow, imagine that.
Yeah,
paying for tickets to the game.
I've never seen a group of fans more scared of our fans than that group of fans, actually. An actual basketball question, because I was thinking about this as you were coming on tonight. I was thinking, what do I want to ask Frank? Is Giannis like the weirdest best player on a championship team of like the last 30 years? I can't think of a less conventional
What do you mean by weird as in unconventional?
Yeah, it's just like, especially given what he was up until these playoffs, where he sort of switched into, true center / power forward Giannis. It's just like incredibly unconventional. That's what I mean about weird. As a person, he seems actually very normal, but as a player, he seems very weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess weird has at least a slight negative connotation. That's
not how I meant it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just maybe I'd just say like unique, right? Like I think he is one of those guys that just like, I don't know. Anytime you compare him, you end up saying like, well, he's sort of like this, but then mix with a little bit of that, because they're just for him. Because I mean, like people always talked about like Shaq, and I've just always found the Shaq thing like, on the one hand, I get it because it's like, obviously his ability to dominate without, the ability to really stretch the floor and be a threat from the perimeter. And obviously in the playoffs, he always becomes an even worse free throw shooter. But just stylistically, I always was like, well, yeah, but he's 6'11" and can dribble and pass and play make in ways that like dudes that size can't really do it. And it's kind of hard. I kind of wonder how Giannis without the lens of LeBron, because I think when Giannis was sort of becoming a star, I think, and Bucks fans, we did this too. We kind of like wanted to like imprint some of LeBron's capabilities like onto Giannis, almost like his playmaking, like point Giannis and some of this stuff. And LeBron is just, in the history of basketball, just on such a different level from like a playmaking, and I think just the way he kind of can orchestrate a game, that comparing any young player to LeBron just is sort of unfair. And I think it kind of obscured the fact that, Giannis he doesn't have some of those highest end playmaking and just kind of initiate the offense type of skills. But I think especially as we saw as the playoffs went on, his, ability to, be dominant without having to be that sort of conventional type of, wing initiator. In a lot of ways that's always been used against him, because it's, I mean, the whole Batman and Robin dialogue and like, well, you can't give him the ball late in games, things like that. But I think he showed, especially in the finals, that, I mean, he was a monster, and even in game 6, I mean, he hit huge shots late in that game, and he actually made his free throws as well, which was pretty important. So yeah, I mean, he's kind of just one of a kind, one of one. I don't know that we'll ever see a guy who really looks and plays like him. And I think that's kind of what makes him really fun as a player to root for. And, again, I think there's like, I don't know if, I don't know who originally came up with like the whole like 90-10 idea, Westbrook, like the 10% of Westbrook that frustrates you kind of like in some ways, and now it's more than 10%, but even like peak Westbrook, it kind of turned you off maybe a little bit from all the things he did well. And I think Giannis probably suffered from some of that as well, just because of the shooting limitations were so obvious that it kind of made you overlook some of the things that he does really well. And, again, but just the way he, especially in the finals, was able to do, play his role, play to his strengths in such a, completely unstoppable way. Cause that was the other thing. I mean, coming to the series, I thought, well, Jay Crowder frustrated him at times in the Miami series for sure last year. And DeAndre Ayton physically matches up with him as well as anybody that he played in the playoffs. So I thought, maybe the Suns actually have some bodies they can throw at them, but the fact that Ayton had nothing for him, obviously Crowder nothing for him, and then they really didn't have anybody else they could throw at. I mean, it was just an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah, the combination of like length and obviously superior athleticism combined with the willingness to do the things that like a lot of guys of his stature aren't willing to, like the screen setting, the rolling, the offensive rebounding, and then like plus just a real motor that is unparalleled in the league. I think it's like, even though he wasn't dominant with the ball in his hands and sometimes was detrimental with the ball in his hands, and would try to do too much or try to, for a while in the playoffs, unnecessarily take shots from the outside, like too early in the shot clock or whatever it is. Because he decided to do those other things so well that like he just became dominant in like a very different way. And it was cool to see it. And it was cool to see, like, I remember being, because you were at Giannis's first summer league, right?
Yeah, 2014.
And so and being there with that, and then living through the Jabari Wiggins when Jabari also sucked. like living through that and like going from like, oh, Giannis is cool. He's actually kind of weird. He's actually like, look how long and skinny he is, to like, oh, he's actually better than Jabari. Oh, he's actually kind of better than everyone. Like going through that and going from like this random kid from Greece, like going there, it's just, it's very cool. And it feels like all the best parts of being a sports fan when you can really invest in someone's like humanity as well as their growth on the court. That like makes you feel like, oh, I've really like, it's a special like journey through with them.
Yeah, I mean the payoff of this specific championship, and obviously you guys can relate just because of the Joel kind of parallels are obvious, right? With being 100%. Kind of that homegrown star who has taken to the market in ways that you just dream of superstar players taking to your city and embracing the city in a way that those guys have, and the fact that like this first championship for Giannis, I mean, they could win 3 more championships and nothing will ever come close to that first one, right? Because it represented that breakthrough for the franchise, for the city, for him, right? I think that was the other piece that's just been, when I think about sort of the aftermath of the championship, is just kind of like just the pressure release for not just the players and Mike Budenholzer and the people around the organization, but just for fans too. I mean, just that impending sense of dread that like, oh, bad things are just always going to happen to us. And, we can never just really, and we just can't have nice things. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Now you're on the other side of it. You're going to be going into a season where you obviously want to win another championship, where you are in I guess I can't say like, don't trust the Bucks, or like, I guess I can't say like where, this always happens to us, because like you need like at least 5 to 10 years of like, it's fine. Whatever happens, we got one. Like, right. Do you feel that like you have to recalibrate yourself in there? Yeah.
I mean, I always think of like Dallas fans, after Dirk won the title in 2011. I mean, Dirk was further. I mean, he was definitely obviously older than Giannis was in this case, right? So I mean, that was more of like the unexpected title that 2006 was probably the title Dirk should have won. That would have been maybe the more obvious parallel. But yeah, I mean, just the way that especially in the parallels, right? I mean, and you guys have it too. I mean, there was something interesting about having a guy who's an international player who doesn't come with like almost like the baggage of like Philly being like this, or Milwaukee, like I don't think it's a coincidence that these guys have embraced these cities and the people of these cities in the ways they have, because they're not from America, and maybe they don't have, again, baggage may not be the right word, but they kind of, like Giannis, like notions. Yeah, they kind of came with an open mind, right, about what these places could be for them, and especially for Giannis. I mean, obviously his journey is just so extreme in terms of like literally like whatever, a year before he ends up in Milwaukee, he's literally just trying to make ends meet with his family, and it's just so extreme, and so I think that journey with Giannis, I mean, as a Wisconsin sports fan, we've had Brett Favre winning a Super Bowl, we've had Aaron Rodgers winning a Super Bowl, but you look across like the broad sort of spectrum of sports, and just the connections between a city and an athlete, and the meaning that has then ascribed to winning a championship for everybody around that. I'm sure there are some that are in that ballpark. Like I said, the Dirk one comes to mind in part because they suffered more, right? They kind of had to go through a longer period, and they thought they missed their window before they eventually won the title. That's probably the obvious one I always think of. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really special thing, and it kind of, and I mean, you could say like, well, LeBron going back to Cleveland and winning in Cleveland, maybe has some parallels, but LeBron had won 2 championships at that point too, so it kind of, it's
recalibrating your sense of self, like in a weird way of how you think about like this part of your life. Like I'm a loser because I like this loser team, and then they win one, and you're like, well, I guess I'm good. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't suck as much as I had thought I did.
It is weird. It is weird, this feeling of like, especially because I mean, people like us, we donate. We don't. Well, donate's probably right, but we put so much of our psychic energy towards talking about, thinking about, investing emotionally into a team, and putting it on like for such public display as well. That it does feel like you've won something with them, right? I mean, maybe that's just the core of the fan experience, right? Like,
Frank, we're calling this a process championship because Drew won one. Like, we count this.
Yeah,
it wasn't even ours.
I mean, Christian Wood was a process Sixer who then was a process Buck. Maybe
Chris Middleton feels like he should have been one of ours. It feels like he should have been our guy.
He should have been. Yeah. And Dante DiVincenzo, Delmarva Peninsula, Pride of Delaware. I don't know. Right. I don't know enough about Philly and how you guys claim Delawareans or whatever they're called.
It depends on how good they are. Like all you need to do is look at Mike Trout, who's from like 60 miles away in New Jersey, and everybody's like, he's from Philly, so it depends.
And you go to Villanova, and I guess all that papers over a lot too.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I've never been one of these people who says like, oh, fans can't say we, like, you can't, you're not on the team, you're not we. It's like, I'm way more invested in the Bucks than friggin' Elijah Bryant or Sam Merrill or whoever, right? Your boy Sam Merrill, Mike.
Right.
Okay, they're literally parts of the team. They know this team better than I do. They win championship rings, I don't. But I think, yeah, I mean, in terms of like what it means to you and just like this broader group of people that you've been a part of and invested in, I mean, there's no comparison, right? I mean, the fans are always sort of the constant, and I think, and it's kind of funny because I was thinking about it, with the Nets being like the new favorites in the East. It's kind of funny because part of me is just like, Nets fans. It's kind of weird, right? Like the Twitter discourse, right? And I admit, I'm sure Bucks fans are, going to be pretty insufferable, or at least a large proportion of us. But it's kind of weird because I was thinking like, man, I've gone through so much. It's like the Nets. What have Nets fans gone through? Like, if you're an old New Jersey Nets fan, like, how many old New Jersey Nets fans are there? Like,
so I'll tell you. So I work with a couple of them now, one specifically now, and I will say that the ones who went through that deserve this. Like Evan Roberts, I work at WFAN, and our afternoon show host was a Jersey Nets fan. And I know a guy who hosts a Nets podcast, this guy Keith, and he was a Jersey Nets fan. And like, talk about feeling fucking disrespected. Like, just in general, here's a team that went to 2 straight like finals, but just like nobody gave a fuck, just like in the middle of nowhere. And then they moved to Brooklyn and nobody gave a fuck. So I agree, there's probably this weird split of like whatever this new Nets fan is, but like the ones that dealt with it definitely fucking dealt with it. Like are definitely excited. So
I'll give them some respect. Like James Harden stans who, just, I mean, those people can, be put on a rocket and shot into space as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
And especially as a Bucks fan, mind you, I married into a family from Houston, and my wife, I mean, she watched literally like most Rockets games, like 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, she would just watch on League Pass. And then so, I mean, I watched too. And I mean, I liked James Harden for a while. I at least appreciated his game. And then he got too salty about Giannis winning MVPs. And I was just like, all right, fuck that guy. And then this year, man, to beat the Nets. And obviously you can say like, well, he wasn't at full strength, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? The fact that, James Harden has to cry about, make it and say, well, we would have won if we're healthy and all this, whatever else he's saying. Like, that just was such a nice capper. Like, just some of the wins along the way, like the Bucks revenge tour, Bogdanovich, like that whole like saga. And then the fact that you beat the team that he goes to, the fact that it was such a weird thing. And, vanquishing the Heat after they'd beaten you the year before,
big time,
being able to beat Harden when, there's such a weird dynamic between him and Giannis. And now he's going to have to be in Milwaukee on ring night, on opening night. It's nice. Like, okay, maybe
that's nice for you.
If it's like, whatever, if the Nets win, it's like, Nets fans was like, oh, but it's like, who cares? Championship, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's, there were all those kind of positive, legitimately warm, fuzzy reasons to feel great about the championship. And then there's also kind of the petty stuff that, is also a nice sort of side piece to it, and I always think back, actually, Mike, I was thinking about it. Actually, I started thinking about it like right before the Bucks won. I was like, oh man, if the Bucks win, I thought of when you guys, what did you call it when you guys went back to all the people that had shit talked the process and basically just started putting him on blast. I forget what you had a name for it. What was it called?
Retweet Armageddon.
Retweet Armageddon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there you go. And I was kind of like, all right, Bucks, dig up all the stuff that people said, which,
it's a lot less. I feel
but
like once you win, then it's just like, we don't need to do that. We're happy now. We needed to do it at a time where like it's gonna happen, and it's what a weird time we chose to do it. The quick Bud question, because I think Bud and Doc Rivers are slightly similar in the sense that they like seem like stubborn guys that win a lot of games. That like up until, I mean, both of them have one championship. Obviously, Doc's head coaching career is longer at this point, so thus filled with a lot more disappointment just by volume. Are there things that like you were, like hoping that the front office would do in a certain way to like tie Bud's hands so he couldn't play to his worst instincts, like what his natural, like if he, like right now, the Sixers signed Andre Drummond, it's a minimum contract, but it's Andre Drummond, and Doc is going to play him.
Loves his backup center. Yeah.
That's what he does. Yes. And Sixers fans, even before Doc, have just been drowning in stiff, unswitchable, not stretchable backup fives. And we're just like very, very upset about it because then Doc's going to play him. He's going to play him. And were there things that like you were hoping for that to happen with Bud, and either the front office obliged or didn't oblige, or Bud adjusted? Was there anything like that?
I mean, I think the fact that they went all in on Drew not summer, but fall, I guess. And, in the process, they lost a lot of their depth. I mean, there was kind of like a half joking thing, but it was kind of like, well, Bud's going to have to play players because like we just don't have that many dudes to play anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that was something we saw for sure in the playoffs. And, I mean, I give Bud some credit. I mean, I think as much as he had an interview with Zach Lowe a week or two ago, and it was interesting. He really didn't take Zach's bait to sort of like say, see, I made adjustments and whatever. He really didn't do that. And I was like, man, that was his, retweet Armageddon moment, right? To kind of stick it at people. But yeah, I mean, I think, he started actually playing after the first couple of games of the Heat series last year. He actually he just like ran Middleton into the ground the last two games of that series. So it's like, I don't know if it was like, ownership or front office were like, dude, are you freaking kidding me playing these dudes 34 minutes in a playoff game? But I think having less depth, I think, was a forcing mechanism to really lean hard on their best players. I think acquiring PJ was probably also a bit of a forcing mechanism. I mean, they literally didn't have, they got rid of Robin Lopez. Well, he left, Robin Lopez left. So they really didn't have a true backup center. It was like, Bobby Portis, Giannis, and PJ Tucker. Those are your backup five options beyond Brook Lopez. So they also, I think, kind of like it was very obvious that, they were going to have to go smaller if they wanted to do different things. But I give Bud credit. I mean, they experimented throughout the year. I can't say that like they clearly figured it out during the year. I mean, Tucker came in late in the season, had some injuries. They had a negative differential with PJ Tucker on the floor last year. I think in the regular season, I think they were had like a 120 defensive rating with PJ on the floor in the regular season. So they clearly had not figured it out by the time the playoffs came around. But you just
got to keep winning. You got to win enough.
You have to win
enough games, and then no one cares about various lineup construction situations. All right, we just need to Celtic pride some backup centers away from Doc.
But I will say, I mean, going into Game 7 in the Nets series, I did think, well, either we win Game 7 and it's amazing to beat KD in a 7-game series on the road, for Giannis to beat those guys, that would be awesome, or Bud's going to get fired. And that was like kind of what I told myself. I was like, well, Bud, who, I mean, offensively that was like, the ugliest they looked all playoffs in that Nets series. And that was probably the most frustrating series. And so, I mean, I was absolutely like feeling like, well, like they're gonna have no choice but to go a different direction. And again, it's not to say like Bud's a terrible coach or something like that, or that the guy between door number 1 was going to be better than Bud or something like that. I mean, At the time, Rick Carlisle was available, so that was part of the reason also why I felt like, man, there's some urgency to get a proven guy who's actually won a championship. But like some random assistant, like is that guy going to come in and win a championship next year and Nick Nurse it? Like I had no idea. So yeah, I mean, again, it's just you just never know. Small things happen, and now Bud is the toast of a town as a 3-year extension. He's a championship coach. I mean.
There you go.
It's small things.
I felt the same thing about this Game 7 of the Hawks series was either the Sixers win in advance or I will just lay flat on my face and stop breathing for several days at a time. And so there was nice relief in that as well.
Congratulations to Coach Bud, but he is not the toast of any town. I just would like to say that. He doesn't have the sizzle. He's not a toast of the town kind of guy. He was
shotgunning during the parade, and so yes, not really toasting, but sloppily shotgunning beers. That's maybe the better way to think of it. Yeah,
Frank, I feel happiness for you. I feel resentment toward myself for not experiencing it, and obviously the Sixers, and in many ways always. But I do feel happy for you, and you earned it, and Bucks fans earned it. And this has to feel really, really cool. And just big fan, bud.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I
only
appreciate
one.
Mike.
Only one. Let's keep it at one.
I appreciated that. I enjoyed the pod you guys did, kind of reflecting on what kind of the Bucks title meant for the Sixers and things like that. And I appreciated the shout out, Mike, because we are brothers in
agony,
process, loser mindset, whatever. My team was worse than yours in the first year of the process. A lot of
that's
people
right.
Get that.
Say it as loud as you can all the time.
Worse than you. Yeah, and we didn't catch nearly the flack that you guys did. No. But yeah, no, it was, and I was thinking of you after that. I was just kind of like, just kind of reminding me. I mean, again, like you just never know, and I think people tend to view these titles after they happen like more deterministically than they are. Like, of course, well, that happened, so therefore that was always a happen.
Exactly.
I think people with the Bucks, I think, realized that there was sliding doors moments at a number of points, but
Durant's big toe.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it just sort of underscores, like, I mean, if the Sixers have things go slightly differently in round 2.
No, you don't need to make us feel better, Frank. It's okay.
No, I mean,
we're fine.
But it's fine. You'll be fine, Michael. Joel, as long as you keep the big guy healthy. I think that's the thing. So every year you just need to be good enough to have a chance, right? And then you just get enough cracks at it, and hopefully one year you break through. And this year was the Bucks, and it was amazing. So,
amen.
Good luck to you, buddy. I'm at least happy you have the Eagles.
Sure.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Past tense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, thanks,
Frank.
guys.
Yeah. Well, Frank just tries to be nice about everything. Oh, Frank's still there.
He's figuring it out.
I'm trying to leave, guys.
I'm nice about everything. It's all good.
All right. Godspeed.
We thank you for listening. Mike is at a bachelor party this weekend. Are we allowed to say it? All right.
Been a busy month. This is the off-season month. This is the next one.
But we will talk to you after that. So thanks for Frank for coming on, and thanks to you for listening.
It'll be nice if the Sixers ever win a championship.
Yeah.
I do think about like that moment a lot, and if I could, I actually live in the moment of it. And I don't know that I ever could, because I'll just have the context of it and all the things that happened before it will just be too great. It'll be a powerful force.
Certainly be a wonderful end to the story, Certainly.
Yeah. If I died right there.
Yeah.
Sixers win championship, Mike dies seconds later.
And I'm left to do the pod by myself, just talking to CJ.
I think there's a decent chance that you could just film my corpse and like my body would make some sounds or something.
Do you think Alyssa would allow that? Just put the camera on him.
Just tilt it down. It's fine. Where's he going?
All right. We'll talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, Lick face.